Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi Mons, and at the moment, I am only joined by one of the usual suspects, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, Desi. There's something wrong with your video, mate.
Got a Cork man on. What's all that about?
There's four of us here.
Haven't even started. Jesus.
Hold on a minute. Have we just been joined by Monty Burns?
Yes, he's on.
All right. So sorry. So this is the most calamitous start to a podcast. I'm not even going to edit this. So Monty's just jumped in the middle of my introduction. So thanks for that, Monty.
Is this Harry Hill TV pops?
Exactly. So Monty, if you could be quiet regards the secret special guest for a second. We'll come to that in a minute, because you've already missed 20 minutes of preamble because you're late. So at the moment, everyone, thanks for holding on. I am currently joined by the man in the suburbs, our resident tactician, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, everyone.
And thank you for turning up on time. And as you may have noticed, just joined us as the man from across the water, Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Evening, Desert. Evening, lads.
Are you currently in the north of the Irish Isle at the moment, Monty? Because this could be significant.
I am. I'm sorry. I had to finish off doing a reference for Neil for his new job in Spain. So I was on a call. It just took a while. Sorry about that, lads.
That's fine. Thanks for coming. And we are waiting Ralph Miles joining. He's just finishing his trips in a white van. As soon as he joins, hopefully he can join as soon as he's done. But I am also glad to say, as well as the usual suspects, we have a special guest tonight. I joined us. But before we get to the special guest, I also have a few quick shout-outs to do for two special people. So let me do that first before we'll get the long introduction from the special guest, who wrote the long introduction himself, by the way. So first of all the best to our long-term listener and friend of the site, Marco, who's going on his travels, and we wish him well. And also a special hail to Donegal's finest E-Tims fan, Kieran McFadden, for his lovely recent feedback. And everyone out there thinks we make this feedback up, but it actually does happen. So thank you, Kieran. Very, very happy to receive that. And now we come on to our special guest, right? So Hector, Monty, you can relax, because this may go on for a little bit, right? And remember, he wrote this. This is a man whose political comedy sketches, including Brexit, but it's a house-sharing flop, have amassed millions of views online. The acclaim of esteemed comedians, journalists and academics all over the world, as well as a sprinkling of death threats, which we may come to later. This is a man who describes himself as, I'm a so-called comedian, actor, writer, musician, alcoholic and general morale booster around Cork. He's a man who generates praise such as sharp and funny, like an errant rake, dangerously funny, a mesmerising performer, and of course the classic, watch him, I'd rather glue my ball bag to a cement mixer, a comment attributed to a Mr. A loyalist. So, not only is he a comedy legend of recent years, not only should he be representing Ireland in this year's Eurovision for his wonderful song, Are You Sorry for What You Did? And not only is he the man who has entertained more people whilst wearing a Rangers top than any of Michael Beale's current lot, but he is also, by the way, not only that, he is also the ultimate semi-final ticket blagger extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present Cork's finest glory hunter since Roy Keane came up to play against Clyde. A big E-Tin semi-final weekend welcome to the one and only Tadhg Hitty. Good evening, Tadhg.
Yay!
That's amazing. What an intro.
That's your feet up now, isn't it?
If you want me to do your intro for your shows, I'm always welcome.
Who's this guy they're talking of? He sounds brilliant.
I had this lifted that from your blogs. So welcome, Tadhg.
Thanks for having me, lads. It's well overdue. Thanks for having me.
Exactly. We've been trying to be. You're just a man in demand, but it's so good to finally have you on. And of course you are on because it's semi-final weekend, and you're trying to ride on the E-Tim's Twitter coattails by blagging a ticket during the week, and now you're telling us pre-chat you've actually got 2 free tickets for the game.
Well, I have my ticket sorted, but someone else got on to me there earlier on today and said, are you sorted for a ticket? Like, I'll try and sort you if you want, if you're stuck. So, if anybody looks like me and they're short a ticket in Glasgow, it's well worth a go.
I think if I shave my head and lose about 4 stone, I might get away.
What a beautiful accent in the corner. What a beautiful accent.
So suddenly Lurgan meets Cork, and that
Lurgan meets Cork.
Northmen, Southmen, apparently.
Indeed,
absolutely, yeah.
Indeed. And better together, as you guys prefer.
Absolutely.
No, that's it. Because again, if Ralph joins, Ralph's located in Stoke, Tadhg. So again, I was going to say that was going to be a Four Nations podcast tonight, and that also ties into your tour, which is coming up, but we'll come to that later on. That's a 5 Nations. So, what have we got to discuss tonight? Obviously, it's a semi-final weekend. Since the last time, normally we go through what's happened since the last time we chatted, but realistically, we don't really care. We had a lovely 25 minutes against Kilmarnock away. We beat Rangers 3-2 in a nice, straightforward victory. But it's really all about this weekend and what's happened this week on the run-up. So, I don't know whether to go to Hector or Monty or Tadhg first with this question. The big question of the week. Can Jota carry off double denim? What was we saying? Thumbs up or thumbs down? I mean, this is a man with a mullet and no sideburns and double denim. That's pushing the envelope, surely.
And he still looks cool, doesn't he?
He does. He gets away with it. Tadhg is a man who wears wigs for a living.
I think he can do whatever he likes. I think he's got the makings of a guy who will become a legend because I think he's ingratiated himself into the kind of world of Scotland and Ireland. Kind of double denim is kind of the norm. I feel if Jota walked into my local, I think he'd just be like, oh yeah, that's
standard issue and leash.
Standard issue, yeah. Oh, but I just love everything about him, because I think you like to look at a player who looks like he's enjoying the fact that he is a professional footballer playing with a club that loves him. That's what you want. There's a bit of personality to him, I love the guy.
That's a fair point. If you do go to the Shandon Arms again, Tadhg, just to pop into my old local, you may see a few double denims in there, I believe.
and mullets.
Definitely. And that's back to 1995.
There was a great, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, it was a comparison of Jota's double denim and Begbie's double denim from Spot. It was scurrily.
That girl was being glassed. No one's getting out of here.
Nobody's leaving here till we find out he did it.
Well, guys, there's nothing unusual about double denim. I don't think you're getting Ireland sport here, hurling and football. I would say 50-60% of the supporters are in double denim, so they're all Jotas.
I'm going to clone us on Sunday. I suspect 80% between down.
Desi, excuse me, Desi, but I've got a complaint here. Wait a minute. In Glasgow, we don't wear double fucking denim. I'm sorry, wait a minute. We're not redneck here.
It's a joke on Twitter. Double denim. Double diamond, maybe, but no double
fucking
denim.
mullets, moustaches and double denim. That's redneck fucking attire, isn't it?
Oh my god, this is this anti-Irish, Scottish stuff now I've been hearing about.
Get away. They can't help themselves.
Is it racism or is it discrimination? Who cares? It's hurtful.
If we blaming Brexit for double denim, So, semi-final weekend. So we usually start with Hector, our resident tactician and our football man. We'll move on to Monty, our finance man, because there's been quite a few bits and pieces finance-wise too that people might have missed. But Hector, this week, the run up to the semi-final, anything interesting?
I've got a concern, Desi. I must admit, I've got a concern.
Is it Cork?
Yeah, it's to do with the game itself, right? So you mentioned just a few minutes ago we had a good half hour or so against Carmarthen. They were excellent. First half were excellent. Beat Rangers 3-2, but we weren't great. Let's be honest about it. Just it was one of those games that Motherwell last week wasn't great. We've missed Tadhg, haven't we, the last few weeks? He's one of our, I think, most important players in midfield, and obviously Jota was out recently. But I just feel there's a wee bit of overconfidence sometimes with some of the support. The game's been really close recently with them, and we've not been at our best. So I'm not saying I still think we'll win, but I just think fans, they're a wee bit carried away. We've got to play our game on Sunday and play well on Sunday. If we think we can just turn up and win, honestly, it's not going to happen. And you go back 12 months, we played them in the semi-final at Hampden. We were 1-0 up, weren't we? And probably should have game out of sight by 90 minutes. But in extra time, they actually overpowered us in extra time. And they were in the semi-finals of the Europa Cup at the time. So I just feet in the ground a wee bit. We're playing them. We've got to be on our game on Sunday. If Rio's fit to play, he has to start. And you might get maybe usual 55, 60 minutes. Same with Jota. But I hope we play our game, let the ball do the work, and just go at them as we do. I think we'll win. But we've got to be on our game on Sunday.
Any thoughts, Monty?
Not much to add to that in terms of being on point on Sunday, because ultimately, with all the scars of the 90s and all that, the league's done now. The league, it was done, but when it's kind of done, then you can kind of think about a treble. So I suspect that's a motivator for them, but they'll probably not mention that externally. It's just a huge 90 minutes. There's an assumption, obviously, whoever wins this will go on and win the cup because of who's on the other side of the draw. I'd definitely start with Tadhg and Jota, although it's a tough call because Iwata, I think, is worth a start now. And I think is a nailed-on certain starter now. McGregor, obviously. So you're then looking at Iwata taking that, Hattari coming into his normal role and O'Reilly potentially dropping out. So it's a great problem for us to have going into the game. I don't think we lose the legs the way we did in last year's semi-final simply because of, and I think Ange he's talked about learning from that. We were kind of running on empty towards that last bit of the season. We were out on our feet and he talked about pushing them too hard. I think now, he's now talking in a completely different vein about the Japanese guys are fire. They're chomping at the bit. They can contribute. So I don't think we'll see any surprises. We're not going to start with two up top. We're not going to start in some weird, wonderful way. We're going to play exactly the same way we always do. But we've got to be on point. But I don't think there's any reason why we won't be. That said, cup game, one-off, VAR, all the usual shit, all that comes into play. So I'm looking forward to it. A lot more relaxed with the fact and the knowledge that the league's in the bag, because that was the priority this year, as it is every year. But I think we'll beat them, but I'd love to tank them. I'd really love to tank them. But maybe we keep that for Ibrox and really put manners on them. But that's just me being selfish.
Yeah, so Tadhg, Ange has been saying everyone has been doing a full week's training apart from James Forrest. You're a man who does a lot of analysis. Do you believe that, or do you think it's just the classic football manager mind games just to keep Mr. Beale guessing?
I think I actually would echo some of the caution from the lads there. I think Ange, obviously you don't really know what's going on the ground, but I think Ange doesn't get complacent. I definitely felt there was complacency in the last game against Rangers. Like, there was a kind of an arrogance to the way they were trying to pass the ball early on, as if they just had a right to kind of outplay them, but they actually weren't very effective. They just kept kind of losing control of it, I felt. The only thing that would make me feel confident, though, was that even at our worst, because I thought we were actually quite poor that day, we still won the game kind of comfortably. Like, if you take Tavernier out of that side, really, they offered very little, So I do think that bodes well. I do think, like, what the correspondence to the game last year is interesting to think about that, alright, but I actually think that was a considerably better Rangers team. On a considerably better run. Like, this Rangers team doesn't look like it has any pattern at all. There's no obvious striker. There's no one really kind of looking to lead the line. You've still got kind of Morelos kind of falling around the place and hoping the ball is going to hit off some part of his body that we didn't expect and go in. But like, they have a sensational captain, you have to hand it to them. So, in conclusion, I would really share the caution. I hope the players treat them with the respect they deserve early on, and then outplay them when we're comfortably 1-2 nil up and kind of outplay them there. But I thought there was a kind of an entitlement to the way they played at the first 20 minutes that wasn't backed up at all with good passing or good chance creation. And again, if you took Kyogo out for us, I would have been concerned in that Rangers game. So, yeah, I think back to basics. Let's start doing the basic things well again and stuff like, and I would love to see us just kind of like putting 4 or 5 of them right just because I'll be there.
Well, again, being a VIP, of course you'll be there.
Dressing room tags here. We need to hit 4.
That's it.
Well, I've never seen us not beat Rangers, like, so I've seen four games now and we won every one, so I don't see why that should change.
What about you, Desi? What's your thoughts on
well, no, I like listening and then kind of having me kind of spurs. So this listening to Tadhg there, actually this made me think of the last game. An interesting aspect was Rangers pressing from the front, like playing Cantwell and Tillman right up the park and then pressing. And again, Celtic working, like, you seen Ange, like, you know where I sit, so I've got a really good view of Ange, and he was going crazy because the centre-halves weren't getting the balls to the midfield, but the only midfielder available then was McGregor, because I can't remember who started, O'Reilly and sort of Moy maybe. They weren't available, they weren't making themselves available for the ball in really nasty spaces. And McGregor even then started shouting at them after like 30 minutes, as in, yous have got to come and be brave. So I think again, if we can get to, I think they're going to press again. They're going to try that press again because it did work. So we'll try that again, and we just have to make sure we've got players brave. So again, as Monty said, Awata's really brave on the ball, and he demands it. I mean, this is more like actually telling the centre half, give me it, no just try and drift into a wee space. And Hatate's really good, so if one of them could at least play, I think that helps break that press. When you go, Hector.
Just to come in, and just as you guys were all talking about it, and you mentioned Moy, the game against him, we won 3-2, was Moy's first game back, I think, in 4 weeks. And you could tell, because he was way off the pace. So in large parts, they pretty much played a man down. And Moy's been excellent this season.
Yeah.
You know, don't want to criticise the guy. Every player's entitled to have a bad game or a bad 60 minutes. But he was really well off the pace. And I felt a lot of it broke down that day with him. And funnily enough, you mentioned Awata. It's when Awata replaced Moy, I think it was. Yeah, we suddenly had a nice shape again. He dropped into 6 when McGregor's free. McGregor pushed it where Moy was. And we took control after that, pretty much. So it's interesting. Hatate's been out for several weeks. Is it the same situation? Does the manager look at that and go, because we don't know how the team train otherwise than what we're led to believe. It's 100 mile an hour. You train how you play, you press. Will Hatate possibly be at that level, not having really trained for 3 of the last 4? We don't know. So what I'm trying to say in the roundabout way is, I think Awata will probably start at 6, because I think he's been excellent. Now he's had a run of games. And I think it's probably McGregor. No, probably will be McGregor. The question mark is it Matt O'Reilly, or is Hatate fit enough based upon recent learnings to start? And if it's not working, you hook him then for O'Reilly or Moy.
You got to play Hatate. Like, if Hatate is even 80% fit, you got to play him because he's just going to scare him.
Yeah, and he petrifies them. He's one of those players that, from the first game, obviously, when he had such first game against them, he's just different gravy. You know that they're going to try and match him. They're going to bring their own feelings as well. I actually really don't care whether it goes inside or not, because I think it actually makes no difference. They're really poor in that gap between Tavernier and whoever plays right centre half. They're really most of our goals, by the way, the last 10 goals we scored against them, most of them have come from that weakness. We either deliberately target that or the flow just happens and we go for it there.
Yeah.
On the other side, Barisic and most likely be Suter. We know the way they're going to play, the same way they know that we're going to play. But I think we talked about it the last podcast before we played them in the league. Beale's system, and you can see them still building this siege mentality that we talked about as well. All this bullshit about Ange pissing them off, and we're going to stick it to him.
It's great, isn't it?
But you know, it's like we're now rent free in their head. completely as a club. They're fucked again, which is lovely. But there's part of it now going into this game. The psychological blow that we can land on it is so vast. Like, you're really, really putting them in a box. Beale's system is set up to dominate the ball. Apparently his philosophy's got 2 taglines on it. Dominate the pitch, dominate the ball. Okay, that's fine. That seems logical. So his system's set up for when they have the ball, but against us, they don't have the ball.
Mm.
So we have a system that he as yet, as a coach, has not even evolved to thinking about. You've seen him doing a few things, a few tweaks in the last game, and they're going to bring that. But ultimately, Tadhg fit scares them. My fear on it, we talked about it, some of the goals that we concede are where they have midfield runners in behind us. When one of our guys is just out of space. Will Tadhg be mentally sharp enough to cope with that for 60 minutes? That's your question. But for me, Awada, stick on. McGregor, stick on. O'Reilly's done enough, I think, the last couple of weeks to start too. So it's a lovely problem. Lovely.
Yeah.
Right, let's not get ahead of ourselves a little bit here, because I know we're concentrating on attack at the moment, but we're no 100% sure that Cameron Carter-Vickers is going to play. I mean, like, he's been rested, but there's also been kind of questions regards potential surgery and all that. It's just like, I think if you lost somebody like him, I think he's more like losing a centre half like him would be the bigger worry than actually worrying about runners for midfield, etc. As long as him and Starfelt start the game, I think. I'm writing here, danger from name, question mark, as Monty was saying that, and I've got set pieces and CCB fit.
Ange answered that, Desi. Ange answered that last week at the press conference when the circulation in the media, as per normal, was saying he's going to require surgery. It was last Friday's media conference. He actually said he's playing tomorrow.
Right.
So I think he answered that.
Okay.
It doesn't mean he's not due surgery, but what he's made clear is he's playing. I think he'll see out tomorrow, this weekend's game, and possibly after that. Yeah, he's definitely in this weekend, 100%.
That's right. No, again, that would be a bigger worry for me then. But again, I think Hatate would have to start. I don't know how good an impact player he could be coming on and trying to get up to speed. And we've talked about this before, I always think Ange does have his favourites, and he does like to go with what he knows rather than bed them in kind of. But it's a case of, we'll start you and then we'll bring you off after, say, the 60 minutes, 70 minute mark. So I think if Hatate is anywhere near what they deem match fitness, I think he would be wanting to get the nod. Surprisingly, during the week I heard a Clyde Super Scoreboard quiz question, and it was, which outfield player has appeared in all the games so far this season? Do you know who it is?
Started.
Has appeared in every game.
McGregor?
Matt O'Reilly.
Matt O'Reilly. So again, Matt O'Reilly, again, either come on the sub. So again, that's kind of, he'll play a part at some point.
And we perceived Desi somehow O'Reilly's been off the boil all year. Yeah, he's played in every game, or he's contributed in every game.
Exactly. So again, it's just, we're no seeing. Again, I think a lot of the stats guys, they back them up as in saying he does have a really good impact, whereas we're more on the eye analysts. I mean, we'd be like the silky touch of Hatate and they're letting the ball roll across him. But it's interesting, I think. But I would say, right, so here's the point for me. For you, Tadhg. You kind of touched on this, Tadhg. Because, like, I just think, I used to always say, I did not think Rangers could touch us while they did not have a player who could rival Scott Brown back in the day, the Scott Brown era.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, I still don't think Rangers can touch us while we've got a player of Kyogo's ability and they don't. What do you think of that, Tadhg?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I think our man Boyd was kind of making out like we're kind of a one-man team. If you take him out, that they stand some sort of a chance. But I don't think that's the case. But I do think he's just on a completely different level at the moment. I do think a fully fit Hatate frightens them in the same way. But in the last game, particularly he's just operating at another level of confidence in his own abilities, I think. Even that recent goal was that Kilmarnock? Goal he got against Kilmarnock? Mm-hmm. Like, he's just, you're already in that kind of panic mode of how long you're going to be able to keep on to him, really. I think he's at that level of quality. But again, I'm repeating myself, but I'm just looking, like, I don't think this is a popular thing to say amongst Celtic fans, but like I thought their run in the Europa Cup last year, like that was a formidable run. They played some good football. They looked like they looked a threat. They looked a threat in the final even, I thought. Like I was watching that game panicked. But I don't really panic now watching Rangers at all. Like, where's the threat coming from? Like, and that's why I'd be kind of confident enough that, I mean, again, if you take Tavernier out, I mean, who took his goals very well, let's be honest. I thought that was an excellent performance. Like, we were a bit sloppy, but I thought that was an excellent performance from him. But other than that, who in the midfield is running it for them? You feel like Kent has kind of gone off the ball. Morelos is he's still got that hunger. But,
very good.
Clearly.
I see what you did there.
I actually didn't mean it, but I'll take it. But like they just don't look a threat. I think like we're operating on different level. I think in a few different places. I mean, like you quite rightly there say Moy was a little bit off it in the last game, but for the previous, I don't know how many games I'm watching, kind of going, that's our best player. Like Johnston looks like the best fullback in European football at the moment. Like I thought he was absolutely sensational against Rangers though. Like again, just totally, like for somebody to come into what must be a very intimidating fixture and to be playing at that level so quickly, I think he's superb quality.
He's like one of those players, isn't he, Johnston, that he was almost born to play those games, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally comfortable straight away. Like, yeah, I thought that was remarkable, to be honest.
Yeah, and just to highlight to any Rangers fans who enjoyed Tadhg's tribute to the Gers there, Tadhg will be playing the Ulster Hall Belfast on the 21st of September, so feel free to get your tickets in early.
I'm toying with coming out in a Rangers jersey, just to get the night
You've got one on at the moment. People can't see, but you're wearing one at the moment.
That's the new away top.
It's in the wash for Sunday. Yeah, it's in the wash for Sunday.
Yeah, right, so Hector, you're the football man. But I was like Tadhg said a perfect phrase there, like panic. So I actually believe Rangers are scared, and that gets you that microsecond that Kyogo needs. As you mentioned, they also kick him regards to Tati, but I don't think they can actually get close enough to Kyogo to kick him because he moves constantly. So I think he's this too much of a danger. I think he's guaranteed to score on Sunday again.
Sorry, Hector. Did any of you get to watch any of the coverage of them against Aberdeen last week?
Yep.
I caught the last 20 minutes of that, and I was staggered by what I was watching. Like, they don't look like a team that's together anymore in the way they were with Beale. I really, you watch body language of players, and yes, they've an eye on the semi-final, and half of them are leaving, and blah, 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 all that. Psychology always plays a huge part, but as a unit and as a team, as Tadhg pointed out, they looked completely all over the place. I couldn't ascertain what way they were trying to play. You're trying to get the ball wide, whip it in. You're trying to go direct, knock on runners from midfield. You're trying to play really compact at the back and break at speed. There was nothing. It was just a mix of everything. And I think either they're holding themselves back for this fixture, or the whole thing is fragmenting, because it feels a little bit like, talking about him again, Lenny and Holding.
Let it go!
Fucking hell.
Look, the man's getting a new job. It feels a little bit like holding on to players for a season too long. It ultimately did for Neil. Ultimately, those boys did not want to be there. He talked about it during the week. He mentioned the fact that COVID kicked in and now there was no buyers. The only offers were for half the value. The players themselves resented that. They wanted to leave. You're in a scenario now where boys will be leaving at the end of the year because they're not going to, other than Kent, who's allegedly been offered quite a significant deal, they're all leaving. So you really going to bust your balls and throw your body on the line, maybe throw your leg into a 50-50 tackle, in the knowledge that you're out of here. So there's a psychology thing going on with them right now, that either this is their last big fucking stand, or they're falling apart. We're going to find out on Sunday. Sorry.
Sorry, Monty, but you only caught the last 20 minutes of that game. You may have saw Hector's tweets we were watching the whole game, and for the first half, Hector, you'll remember, Rangers could have been out of sight.
3-0.
But this ties, so I'll let you come here and say, but this maybe ties into what Monty said, because I'm just trying to put the two scenarios together, because they could have won that in the first half. Yeah. Aberdeen, Monty, just to give you an idea, Aberdeen had 12 passes after 18 minutes. 12 passes between the whole team after 20 minutes. 12 passes, the whole team. But then, it's just alluding to what you said, I'm just wondering now if maybe Michael Beale's tore into him, or maybe tore into Sakala for missing a sitter, and then the whole team just kind of went, oh, fuck him. No, that idea, Hector.
Molly caution us, Monty, you made a lot of really good points. I would just caution it, and you know me, I'm usually very optimistic and, you know, see the kind of positive side on it. I would just say, but for many of them, it's their last chance to learn. The league's gone. This is it. This is like a game of poker. They're all in on Sunday, right? But hold on. They're all in on Sunday, right? For many of them, you're right. It's their last season. Celtic's not a physical team. So they're not going to go out there on Sunday expecting Celtic players like Scott Brown, for example, who's going to put one on them. Alistair Johnson being a notable exception, right? But the midfield we've got isn't going to put one on you. Our forwards aren't going to put one. So what I'm getting is, I think for them, they're all in on Sunday. Because this is it. If they lose, the pressure that Beale has put himself under because of his big gub, right, will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's going to increase, right? But also how they play. They're going to play for free kicks and for set pieces and try and load the 6-yard box against us. That's how they play a lot of the time. So if we play our game, I think we'll win. I've no two ways about it. However, if we give them a sniff and they get the first goal, we just can't be complacent Sunday. We've got to be on our game on Sunday. Is all I'm trying to just say here. Yeah.
I'm just marking down the hunger of Alfredo Morelos as the title of the podcast. Thanks to Tadhg. Right, so Tadhg, as a man who makes videos wearing elaborate headgear, do you think we've got anything to fear from the recent Todd Cantwell TikTok videos?
I don't know what's the ad. I don't think I've seen it.
Have you not seen them?
No.
Todd Cantwell, he does some fantastic formation dancing with two young girls, whereby they think they're on diversity. Honestly. Wow. And he's like either in his back. I think he's actually got a dance studio, or else he's in his back garden doing wee routines. It's quite. If you type it in, you'll see it. Don't worry, it'll not come up with any.
Why don't you give me a demonstration there? Can any of you?
If I could see you, then I would maybe reciprocate. But I'm sorry, I can't see you, so we'll have to leave it to Hector. He can see you. But yeah, so look up Todd Cantwell TikTok. It's quite a treat. So we've kind of touched on this, but Monty, Nicola Raskin said he believes they're really close to us, and I know the scores have been quite close, but some of the games we should have been out of sight, and some of the games we've been kind of in second gear. Do we really think they are close to us, or do we think we're just playing rope-a-dope? Because that makes it a lot easier just to keep them hoping, forever hoping but never reaching.
I don't know if we're... No, to give you by analogy, I'll answer the question if I can. I watched the Man City Arsenal game the other night, and you've never seen fucking rope-a-dope like that.
Yeah.
Arsenal they tried to press, City never flapped, and they tried every fucking thing, and City never flapped. It was just, do what you want. We're going to beat you. And I think that team, I think City, I personally think City will go on and win the 3 trophies available in there. I think they're just at a level above anything.
Well, it does help when you spend £54 billion. But anyway, let's move on.
But funny, I had the same conversation with Liverpool supporting me earlier on today. City's expenditure, if you look at some of the players that Guardiola brought in, they're not all 80 million, 100 million players. He brings in a lot of players between the 5 and 15 million bracket, and they make it. So there's a subtlety there around how the City group go about it, and hopefully we've inherited that with Ange. But to your question on rope-a-dope, and I don't think we're good enough.
Do you think they're close? Do you think that they are actually close to us?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're good enough to keep them just at arm's length and hit them a slap now and again. We're just not. Are they closer to us now than they were under Van Bronckhorst? I don't think so. Are they close to us? Yeah. But there's still a gap. And I think they're about to enter a complete restructure and rebuild. Their club's being decimated and rebuilt by the Spurs at the minute. And that's driven by money. Their team is about to be completely decimated and ripped up. That's a rebuild. And the manager's job's now on the line because he can't finish second. But how close are they, Desi? I mean, again, if you're really honest, the League Cup final, remember the ball that squirted under Cholak and Barisic's foot? Could have made it 2 each. You know, it was just literally fucking inches away from those two guys having a clean, free strike in the box. 3-2, 2 each at Ibrox. They were 2-1 up. They probably should have won that. They're really, the drop, when Beale says that they hadn't had the rub of the luck, I don't buy that. It's a convenient excuse. But we're not as far ahead of them as complacency would, suggest. We're not. But we have the resources to get further ahead. And a guarantee going into next season of Champions League, which allows us to push a little bit further. And I think with Postecoglou in the seat and the culture that he has at the club, that gap, unless they do something exceptional or unless we implode, that gap is going to remain and if anything get bigger. So are they close? Yes. Are they close enough to maybe put a glove on us in a one-off? Maybe. But nah, in the longer run, the odd cup, I think they're where we were in the 90s now. I really do. That there's a rival that's got far more money, far better players, far better structures on the other side of the city. There's fuck all you can do about it. That's what I really do believe that's where they are. But it's football.
Well,
It feels a bit like Cork v Kerry.
Yeah, it is. Here it comes.
Does a bit, alright, yeah. But just as you're saying there about bridging the gap and whatnot, Rangers haven't, as you've quite rightly pointed out, Rangers haven't decided what they are. Like even this current team, you don't really know what they are or how they play, so it's hard to say. I felt like they were really bridging the gap last year, and as I say, I thought that was a formidable run. I mean, in this day and age, to reach a major European final on that type of budget for a club that size, I thought was an extraordinary achievement. To be fair, this year I don't know what they are. I have no idea where the threat's coming from, and I don't think you could reasonably say that you're on the way to bridging the gap with your major rivals if you don't have a midfield player who is dominating the play. We know how we're playing. We've got a squad that is under really specific instructions as to how the manager wants them to play. We score goals free flowing. I don't think the gap is close at all. Can they possibly win on Sunday? Of course, but that's cup football though. That's the huff and puff and a bit of hatred can get you far, Yeah. But no, I don't think that you couldn't discuss the gap until you find out what the second place team is about, either financially in terms of the structure of the club or how they want to play, because that's not really clear. I don't think how they want to play.
Yeah, and that's a really, really difficult one for them, Tadhg. I think tactically, maybe to bring Hector back in on it, the system that they're trying to evolve. If you don't have the right players for it, it's never going to really function. So maybe Beale is this master tactician. He just doesn't have the right pegs for the right holes. Who knows?
Well, they play a 4-3-3, but what they've done after, funny enough, the League Cup semi-final, he got immense criticism because he subs he brought on. He changed his midfield after 60-65 minutes. But the criticism he got is that traditionally they've had Lundstrom and Kamara in there. Too, I would say defensive, but they're not exactly the most creative of players.
Right.
And I think later on they brought on, was it Raskin and Cantwell, who are very different. So what's happened is because of the criticism, he's reacted. So Mr. Blusfer himself, has reacted to some online criticism. And as you guys have said, it's changed the dynamics of what they kind of are. They don't quite know what they are. It's not to say they won't win, as you said, Tadhg, in Sunday. It's a one-off cup game. Any team can win a one-off game. But by losing that structure of who you are, it goes to him, it goes to him, it goes to him. We'll tweak the A2 after 60-65 minutes. It threw things up in there a wee bit. It's like taking Carmack out of our team and taking Rio out of our team, right? You've obviously have an impact to the team because they're the kind of wheels that keep us ticking over in midfield. You take them out, we still have a structure. But you take out the centre of your midfield, you're kind of ripping up the structure and how the team plays. And that's, I think, what he's done since that cup semi-final.
Here's the thing, though, Hector, just on that. And we've kind of airbrushed it out because it feels like so long ago. McGregor missed 2.5 months. And we just kept winning. when O'Reilly dropped back. Remember, there was about 2 months McGregor
really dropped back to 6, and Hatate and Moy.
Hatate and Moy picked up, and that's where Moy really flourished then once he got fit and sharp.
Yeah.
So that goes back to Tadhg's point on structures. They do have one pattern of play. We talked about this a couple of podcasts. I'm fascinated by how they're going to set up with Beale.
A diagonal from corner goals and diagonal 50-yard pass from corner goals.
Into a square that exists where that gap between our fullback, because he's bombed on, and where a normal fullback would be in a back four that sits. Diagonal ball in. They have another pattern of play that they've worked on, but they looked, and again, because I've only seen the last 20 minutes, looked like they'd kind of abandoned it. McGregor, takes a short goal kick to one of the centre halves, or it goes out to the fullback. They move a midfielder back. This is sort of they're just trying to move the ball basically into space, but then they can hit a more accurate diagonal into that scene. So there's a pattern there. But if you don't have the players to play that pattern, it doesn't fucking matter. I think a lot of the identity that they have last year, they had 4 years or 3.5 to 4 years to build that with that team. They knew it.
Tried pressing. They've tried pressing, it didn't work. They've tried, I'm looking at McLeish. I've written down here McLeish versus O'Neill, the 4-3-3, remember, in the cup final? But but he's already tried these different tactics and have no work, so I don't know what else Beale can then do against Celtic, without fearing what Celtic will do to Rangers, because we should have scored a couple of goals in the League Cup final on the break, etc. I mean, I was expecting 4-1. I still think we could beat them an easy 4-1. I think we'll win by 2 goals. I still think we're still 2 goals ahead of them, purely because they've not got a player anywhere near the level of Kyogo. And I'm not saying he's a one-man team, but he's a level that they fear. And that as soon as they've got that fear, they've lost a microsecond, and that's all he needs.
It's the pace to fear, Desi. It's the pace for to fear, right? Because you mentioned Kyogo's, we know how good he is, right? He's been magic. But this other guy called Maeda, it's frightening. He puts the fear of God into them, because he kind of covers the area of 2 or 3 players for 70 minutes or something. He's almost unique in how he's not the most skillful player. He'll not score the most amount of goals. He can't really beat a guy inside with quick feet. But his work rate, his sprinting, his pressing, his defensive play, his attacking play, just hitting the byline. You add all that to the mix, and that's the fear. It's the pace. It's the pace we've got. It's a struggle. It's a struggle for them. It's great, isn't it?
and of course, they've got half the crowd at Hampden, and their crowd tends to terrify them more than inspire them. You know what I mean? So they've got that big fear factor. But right, so okay, quick predictions then for the game. Tadhg, what do you think the result will be on Sunday?
I think it'll be 2-1, and I'd be very, very happy with that. I'd love to see them get pumped.
To Celtic or Rangers, we're not really sure. I'm not sure given how you've been talking tonight.
Yeah, he's playing to his Rangers audience here, isn't he?
I'm a cross-community comedian, like.
See these 2 tickets you've got? Is it one for each end of the stadium?
Yeah, I'll bring the 2 kits and I'll get full coverage,
We'll half.
Okay, Monty, what about you? What do you think?
I think it'll go to extra time. I think it'll be 2 each, go to extra time, and we'll beat them in extra time.
Okay. Hector, and don't forget, I can tell you all, it's been raining heavily on the south side today. I'm 5 minutes from Hampden. It's been raining heavily today, and we've got Falkirk and Inverness Cali tomorrow to cut up the pitch.
It's not been raining, Desi, it's not been raining here today.
It's been
genuinely.
You've about 300 acres to fucking explore.
That's true.
You're in the suburbs, the northern suburbs.
A big canopy over the stairs.
Weather machine.
And Tadhg, just let you know, I'm in the Shandon of the Glasgow south side area.
Yeah.
You're proper old school. I get that vibe off you, man.
Definitely. So Hector, what do you think?
You do live in the Shandon of the prediction. I was going to go for 2-1, but I'm not going to do because Tadhg just picked. I'm going to go for 3-1 Celtic.
Well, as I say, I'm going for Celtic by 2. Celtic +2. I think we'll beat them with 2 goals. The last time we should have beat them with more. I said +3 the last time, but I'll go with +2. And again, I still think
I would think that there is a pumping somewhere.
Well, if you're
there's a pumping coming,
you've got a good chance.
Yeah, so, and I don't know, would it be Ibrox or would it be, I just think
Listen.
we're 5-0 away.
See just on that. We go to Ibrox in 2 weeks' time, right? When we've got no fans.
Yeah.
If
I'll be there.
If we pump them, sorry, Desi, if we pump them at Ibrox with no Celtic fans there, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Tadhg, can you get a ticket for Ibrox?
Well, I'll throw it out on Twitter anyway, lads, if you don't mind retweeting it.
Make sure you get a fucking wig on when you go there, right?
There's got to be a hook. There's got to be like fucking hospitality tickets you could pick up for that and go deep undercover. Gotta. Could you imagine?
I don't think I'd risk it with this accent anyway, to be honest.
No, you'd be alright. You get away with it. You get away with it. You do a good Belfast accent. Love this, a fucking perverse fucking.
I love it.
In me.
Absolutely love it.
Would you love to be sitting among them as they fuck?
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus, not another one, lads. We're shite, aren't we?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Right, kind of laughing and joking, right? I was talking about this the other day, and then someone actually brought it up on Radio Clyde sort of scoreboard. Or the police were talking about the fixture list. Or the police are worried about this and that. I don't know, that's a Rangers fan. I don't know why the police are worried. It's not as if we're going to riot. Can you imagine if we lose to Hearts and win the league at Ibrox and there's no a Celtic fan in the place and Gogo runs up in the 89th minute and scores a winner? They guarantee somebody's coming over that. They guarantee somebody's coming over the
Guaranteed they'll come over the Hordens. Guaranteed.
Alan McGregor will just self-combust, won't he? Just...
Probably Tadhg running on, to be fair.
Alan McGregor will be, remember the snooker, the World Championship, was it the protester thing, the orange? Alan McGregor will do that.
That's a positive for them. It saves them having to offer him any new contract. You never know what shenanigans are going on in the background there.
But that's another thing we not even touched on, like Alan McGregor. I mean, he used to be one of their big strengths and now he's one of their major weaknesses. You know what I mean? So again, they've got to play him on Sunday. So again, that's something for Kyogo and Maeda to chase down. And then that's going to cause more panic between your suitors, etc. So these are all the wee factors that Rangers have to contend with, let alone us worrying about who's fitting in midfield.
Just before we kind of maybe jump into something else, Desi, if Jota's fit, do you start him?
I think all the good players get started and then win the game the first hour and then see it out.
So that, because it's the one thing, Haksabanovic is a wonderful player, but he just hasn't grabbed the chance yet. But maybe that's just coming. He's not sharp yet. He hasn't had a run a game.
He was better off the bench, doesn't he, so far?
He's
really impressive.
Yeah.
I think Celtic were being generous by having him as a nomination as Young Player of the Year in the poll this week. Haksabanovic, to be fair.
He's only 21, 22?
I think he's younger than Nevada.
No way.
Well,
I think so. He just doesn't look it. But Nevada's also fit so you imagine he'll come on as a sub if needed.
And he's
got a good record against Rangers. Like if you take himself, Abada, Jota, I would say Maeda, all those players scare Rangers, and that's the difference. It's not just Kyogo. I think the pace and just the ability of all those players to just change a game. I don't think they have anyone like that at the moment.
Kent, if he's on his game. If he's on his game.
He hasn't been so for a while. I can't remember the last time he's done well in a game against Celtic, really. Like.
Yeah. I think he hasn't done for months, Tadhg. I think they're asking him to do something that's just not him, where Van Bronckhorst could get a trick out of him.
Yes.
See, Gerrard.
He's regressed. He looks like he's he's kind of regressed, because I thought he looked like a proper player last year. Like you know yourself, like when the game is tight as a Celtic fan, that you're kind of going, I don't like seeing him on the ball. Yeah. They don't really have anyone like that at the moment.
Not at the minute. They've got Sakala's
right
pace.
Now.
They've got Sakala's pace. They've got Morelos as a battering ram, which is just how they're going to play.
Yeah.
Cholak is just a very average striker.
Tillman's got ability, but again, it's inconsistency. It's inconsistency.
He's like Tom Rodgick. He reminds you of Tom Rodgick. He's just not got the physicality.
He could have a wonder game on Sunday. This could be his fucking making of him. And then the irony is they can't afford him.
But again, as we've hinted at before, Johnson will go through Tillman in the first 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Johnson's your hardy man who actually gets right into the tackles. I want to move on because we're running out of time. I know Tadhg's going to go to the Masonic at 9, so I want to...
Busy man, like.
Right, so Hector, I know you did want to talk about Celtic sitting pretty with cash in the attic, so I'll hand it over to you.
No, it was kind of two parts to it. One was to do with it was online, and someone had published how much cash the club had in the bank. And obviously every 6 months they do their interim accounts and the full year accounts. And because now the league in the bag and Champions League qualification guaranteed and all that money it brings, right? And it's profit because it's cash, TV cash from UEFA and qualification cash. It's at least £40 million cash they're getting, right? Excluding all the ticket monies, which obviously has a cost to it as well. So I looked at it, and sitting in the bank, cash in bank at December 22 there was over £50 million, right? And it increased from 20 million to about 50, mainly due to the Champions League cash that had came in the first 6 months. As we know, that the last 6 months, the costs tend to be a little bit more, and that money in the bank tends to come down. But it won't come down massively because the season ticket cash, Desi, we're about to find out, you start getting it, but you're a bit later in the next 2 weeks or so. So there's a strong chance that come December this year, we'll be sitting with close to £100 million cash in the bank. And my question was probably two parts to it. Is one, this summer, Ange being Ange, no doubt he's got his targets lined up already. So which areas do you think we need to strengthen? And the good thing for us, because of what he's done the last 2 or 3 windows, is it's an evolution now of the team. So it's probably just 2 or 3 if you're lucky he'll want to bring in, right? But two, it serves the club no purpose having so much cash there, right? Because obviously they'll pay tax as well on any cash profits as well. So it's an opportunity for infrastructure spending that they've maybe put on hold for the right reasons. COVID, obviously, that impacted us all a couple of years there. So what do you think? One, for the team, 2 or 3 positions, and 2, with that level of cash, what do you think the club might look to do with it from an infrastructure perspective over the next 5 to 10 years?
Monty, you're the man with the spreadsheets.
I think I flicked something through just in terms of some of the strategic reasons why they would stockpile. We haven't paid a dividend in a while, but I don't think Dermot's interested in taking cash out of Celtic. So strategically, number one, it's a nice fat balance sheet, and the club is very healthy and it's secure and it's safe and the business model works. You can't have enough cash. But it doesn't do anything for you, as Hector points out. It's just sitting there. You'll pay a tax on it. So I think I remember having a conversation, maybe even with both of you down in Merchant Square when Rodgers was the manager, and we were kind of hoping, might have been with you, Hector, and the clan, the notion that Benkovic as a £13 million player was going to become our next. That's how Rodgers would have evolved Celtic, but he needed to move up. We paid $9 million for Edouard. Rodgers, to move it on to the next level in Rodgers' structures, had to be then the £9 million, £10 million plus player, and we just fucking couldn't do that. I don't think Ange needs that, but having a team of £5 and £6 million players versus the bargaining type ones that he's picked up could be the next evolution. So if you're looking for spend, Abada will leave, O'Reilly may well leave, but that's going to generate another 25 to 30 million. So I'm not sure that the stockpiling of cash is being done with a view to player acquisition. I think it's being done with infrastructural upgrades. We've talked a long time about the stadium and the potential of putting another 10,000 seats in the stadium. That's good when you're winning, not so good when you're maybe struggling a bit and you're at home to Motherwell. So I think structurally, infrastructure projects, the hotel that was floated, upgrading Barrowfield, I think you touched upon that, Hector, putting a few new pitches in. But we have a really state-of-the-art thing already up in Lennoxtown. So it's hard to see other than something outside of the box. And I think I alluded to it in the WhatsApp. I think there's more to this UEFA FSR, and there's more to these changes coming than meets the eye. I have a funny feeling that the next evolution of UEFA tightening to protect football is going to be on the basis that clubs can't go into, as you pointed out with Man City, fucking billions of debt just to dominate a market. They're going to stop that. They're also going to close the loopholes around how you can take a 300 million naming rights fucking spend on your training ground and put that in his football revenue. It's not. That theoretically levels the playing field, but you got to remember things like Spain, Madrid were always, financially doped by the state, by the state. Sorry. So player expenditure, would love to see that, but I think what we generate from the sales of the players that Ange has bought in will go to that. I would love to see us with a team of Carter Vickers type expenditure players, because as much as Atari's great, we've just found a gem. Kyogo, we found a gem. Maeda, we got a really fucking cheap, excellent player who could go for 10 million. Abada, we took on a project, he'll go for 10 to 15 million. We've just done brilliantly with a bunch of players that Ange knew would fit. But imagine an Abada type, but at 3 times the cost if you measure the cost of the market as the potential. Imagine filling the team now, replacing those guys with those. I think that would be wonderful. A couple of other things. There's the ugly side of the equation in terms of the court cases that are ongoing. The club could be making a provision for that, because ultimately that will continue until such times as it's resolved in terms of the boys' club stuff. And that should be resolved, and it should be done right. In the same way that Fergus said it would be wrong not to pay the bills. If the club has any culpability, it should fucking compensate those people who have been horrifically abused and close the case. Just close it. I think a few other things as well. Having that level of cash allows us to pivot really quickly. So if there's a change in the football landscape, if they go bust again, maybe we will buy someone, and maybe we look for another market. Maybe the European landscape will change. So, summary, we're in a really, really healthy position. We haven't been this healthy in a long, long time. You could argue we haven't been this healthy since O'Neill came in the door, because he really did burn the cash. But we had to do that at that time. We're set up now for a future that we really should dominate domestically, but nothing's for granted. And we have a management team and structures that are just fucking superb. We're a really, really good business. And the thing that's always in the back of my mind is Dermot Desmond has never made a loss on any business that he bought. He could be just fattening this cow up to bring it to market and sell it, guys. So don't rule that out. As much as he says he's a custodian, and I believe him when he says that, if someone turns up and says, Dermot, I'll give you 200 million for that, we think we can squeeze 400 out of it, he'd probably take it.
Interesting. There's a good 2 wee points there to consider. Tadhg, are you still with us?
Absolutely, buddy. I've got mixed feelings on this, because I think there's something about Celtic. I'm biased, but there is something about Celtic and the Scottish League at the moment that has kept the passion is still there, and it feels like the spirit and community of the clubs is still there, and I think it's something to be cherished. Like, I don't support anyone in England, but I keep an eye on English soccer, and like the people I know in my life that do support those teams, it really feels the spirit has kind of gone from it. It's like, and whilst I thought Man City, overpowered Arsenal the other night, and it was great to see some big players playing and all that kind of stuff, like, to say that that's the spirit of Man City, like, I don't know, maybe I'm showing my age here, but is that, like, that's not the Man City that I vaguely remember, like,
that's not the Kipback stand. No, it's not. It's fucking a million miles from it.
You know, and I feel like Celtic, and I mean, to be fair, Liverpool have kind of done it as well, that they've seemed to sort of maintain the culture and spirit and philosophy of the club and stuff. So, big spending always has the risk of that changing. Now, having said all that, when I was finishing up school and going into college, like, Celtic were competitive in the Champions League every year. Like, my mates would follow Man United or Liverpool or whatever. I always supported Celtic, and we were beating Juventus and Porto, and yet we didn't seem to. It didn't seem that we were like, it wasn't like the money was flowing and we were like on the same level of financial possibilities as the big European clubs, but we were competitive. And I would definitely harp for those days. Like, there was a feeling in the first half against Real Madrid in the first game, which I again blagged the ticket for, where there was a buzz in the stadium. It was like, well, first of all, Champions League football is back, but second of all, we're fucking holding our own here. Like, if you take Modric out of the equation here, we're actually we're on par with these guys. And so whatever it is that we could do to try and make it that we are back in those days where we're regularly kind of at the table anyway, and that it doesn't have to be a feeder club for middle of the road English clubs. I'd love to see those days back.
A feeder club to the championship top 16.
That's a very good point. Passionately put, because again, even last night watching Man United and Spurs, and the ball went out, and all you could see behind the goal was just a corner. It wasn't even like a penalty or anything. All you could see was cameras, all the crowd sitting. It's basically football tourism now, the EPL. I mean, it's all the fans were watching the game with their cameras facing the pitch, taking photos or whatever. And it was just like, it's just a different wee world, I think. I think there's definitely a difference. But then Tottenham put up a list of 10 players that had been purchased, which are like 350 million total duds, ranging from like 57 million to 25. It was just like another level, then crazy level.
Sorry, Hector, because I think it's actually a point that you had raised on, I think, the WhatsApp maybe, and I wanted to actually maybe see if we could graze around that. The change in football, the thing that Roger Mitchell talked about, the notion of clubs having the balls to go direct to customer. Changing this bloat that has got into the professional game and removing it and making it an actual, not a tourist experience, but a fucking genuine affinity customer experience. And Tadhg, you struck a chord on things that get missed when we talk about and fucking waffle about these numbers. Celtic's ethos as a club, and I think we're too big to ever be someone's feeder. But then you look at the size of some of the other clubs that have become feeders. You look at Leipzig, and you look at Leipzig's relationship with Salzburg. You look at how Salzburg compete in Europe as well. So I think the identity of the big clubs, and Mitchell talked about this, Celtic is a super club in all but operating environment, global footprint, all of that, all the things that we know and we love about it. The fact that it is a club for all, and, refugees welcome, and it leans to, I have a friend in Portugal, by the way, whose club is Belenenses. And he talks about their journey and the fact that they've retained the notion of being part of the community. So people just fucking love them. Where other clubs have tried to go the route of just bringing in foreign overseas players on bigger wages and have collapsed their entire support base, because Portugal, as you know, isn't a very affluent country. So I think the most important thing for Celtic to retain is the identity. But how do you balance holding identity with the commercial realities that we just grazed on? How do you hold your identity and talk about being part of the community when you're burning you have 100 million burning a hole in the fucking bank? Why don't we give some of that back? Why don't we channel some of that through the foundation? And we do to a point. But we can't do that when we're a PLC. We can't do that when we have an obligation to shareholders. So we're in a conundrum. And from a football perspective, we're in a beautiful place. From a corporate perspective, we're in a really fucking good place. We're a really well-run business. The environments that we're in are flawed, and they're changing. And I think, Hector, if I could, I'll shut up and maybe you can come in on some of those, but I think we're preparing ourselves for a change, but I don't know what the change looks like. That's what, if I'm looking at the books and I'm looking at the money and I'm looking at the strategy, we're getting ourselves ready for something here, but I haven't a fucking clue what it is yet.
Yeah, just a few things, and you've all probably covered most of them. So what do I think will happen? I think Ange has created a self-sustaining model based upon his scouting, his increase in the value of players, and his willingness to constantly evolve the team. So he made it clear a few months ago, don't get too attached to some of these players, because they're going to move on. And lo and behold, within 2 months, Juranovic and Giakoumakis were sold and replaced with 3 or 4 other quality players. So I think you're right. I think what we sell this summer will probably be for Ange more than enough for him to then go to the Asian market and bring back 3 fantastic players, right? That's kind of where we're at with him. And the beauty of Ange is, for the first time in my lifetime, we've got a manager, and I even include Rodgers in that, got a manager who, just leave him to it. Leave him to it. Ange knows best. Ange will just do it. Martin O'Neill needed cash. He was at a different era, needed cash. 6 million for Sutton, 6 million for Neil Lennon, 6 for John Hartson, and the wages, which in modern terms, what would that be? £20 million a player? £25 million a player? We
had the 6th highest wage bill in the UK when it was on that.
So he was a different era altogether. So that's that. What I think infrastructure-wise will happen, well, Barrafield, as we know, the traditional training ground we've had for years and years, still gets used by the academy teams. So they're building it started, full-size dome, so they've got an indoor pitch. So the first team will use that, because Lennoxtown, we know, is up in the hills a wee bit. In the winter, it can be a little bit chilly in Lennoxtown, right? So that's happening. There's a phase 2 to that. They're wanting to move the academy, so the B team, Celtic's now the B team, the Lowland League. They're changing the structure and creating a conference league the season after next to create a pathway for the B teams to get promoted through to League 2 or League 1 over the next 3 or 4 years. So the women's team's getting bigger. Phase 2 of Barnafield's to put a stand there. I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 seats, create a wee stand to become the home. So that'll cost a few quid. But again, not massive. I think the Celtic Park infrastructure, wear and tear, maintenance, there'll be millions having to get spent just in general maintenance, right? The South Stand's interesting. Now, I'm going to come to that in a wee second. You hit the nail on the head. There's things happening. This season coming up is the last of the current structure of the Champions League.
Yeah.
The season after that is the expansion of it.
36
and it's going to groups of 10. I think it's groups of 10, right? So your current 40 million you're getting without kicking a ball.
It's double.
It's 65, 70 million. So, and you're right, there's probably a couple of unknowns that we weren't a clue about. But clearly the European clubs are pissed with how big, the big European clubs are pissed with how big the English league's getting.
Yeah.
It's taken over. So you're currently get Barcelona's, your Milans, your Madrids petrified of what they're doing. So us being outside the tent, being a big club, Celtic, they're great, we love them, great fans, but yeah, suddenly there's been an opportunity where they want a Celtic and want an Ajax and want a Benfica to come with them to compete against the EPL. So the landscape may change. And if the landscape's changing, that South Stand's getting ripped down and replaced with an all-seater stadium bring up to 80,000. So I think it's all interrelated. It's just surmised and guessing, a wee bit of creativity, but I think there's a lot at play right now. I just wish I knew what it was.
You'd love to fucking know. There's the intertwining of all of this. We'll see it. Hopefully, God willing, we'll stay the right side of the daisies and we'll see it in the next 5 years. But for us to genuinely get into an environment where the rewards are a level enough playing field that we can compete with all of these other major European clubs for signatures. Because we can't at the minute. We just got to be fucking honest. There's just players that we'd love to have who probably would come to our environment, but we can never afford them. So as UEFA flatten the wages and apply financial sustainability regulations to your revenues, all of a sudden the size of your club becomes really important. So who was it played Bayern Munich? Was it Norwich or somebody like that fucking years ago? Was it Norwich Tadhg? Yeah.
Jeremy Goss.
Jeremy Goss, very boy. He fucking beat Munich, didn't he? They beat them away or something like that, or beat them at home. That's a club that maybe gets 20,000, 25,000. Bournemouth are in the EPL getting 17,000 a get. These are big SPL clubs, tiny clubs in respect of our size. They're third size, a quarter size, but with multiples of our revenue because of the environment they're in. It's fucking wrong, right? But it's not wrong because then you look at Spain and you look at Portugal and you look at everywhere else, and this is just the norm. So the European League appears to be coming in through the back door. The 10 games that we're going to get, or the 9 games you're going to get guaranteed, and then if you finish top half, you move on to the knockouts and all that in the Champions League. Doubles your revenue immediately. But that has to carry with it a prestige. But it also has to carry with it a fucking entry price. I.e., are you sustainable? Do you have the money? Can you afford to run? Blah, blah, blah. So I think, Hector, I suspect that the crystal ball that you've just used there may well be quite accurate. But that's the beauty of it. Well, we're going to find out. We could still be just going away to Ross County on Wednesdays in a couple of years. But sure, that's grand too. It's fucking
or am I going to be blagging tickets to away games in Madrid and Benfica and happy days?
If you want to come to Madrid with me and Hector again, I would just to close this. I was just looking up a story I saw earlier on, Hector, and it was the fact that the Phoenix Suns are abandoned in America. The Phoenix Suns basketball team are abandoning cable TV to go streaming only because it will triple their audience. Wow. So again, that's all it. And again, I don't know, I don't know if any of you watch South Park still, but again, South Park famously left Comedy Central recently, and Comedy Central told Trey Parker and Matt Stone, we own the rights to South Park, and they two went, oh, that's fine, we're just going to go and make South Park with MTV Studios. And they said, how can you do that? We own it. He went, no, you own the TV rights. We own every other right, including streaming. And that's the future of broadcasting. So even they can see that. And also, but there's also, I don't know if you know, in regards to the big teams, Monty, the one thing about financial fair play is it's ensured the big teams have went even further away from the wee teams. So I would be a bit dubious about actually bridging the gap, to be honest. But someone did propose a wage cap recently in football. So that'll be interesting to see if that comes in. But right, we've got roughly 5 minutes before Tadhg was wanting to depart. So I want to devote those to Tadhg. We've also got a special wee quiz that I'll bring Hector and Monty in for. But before, right, so Tadhg, this is your special mastermind round on yourself, Tadhg, right? You ready?
It's actually my specialised subject.
Your own specialist subject, you ready? Your first Celtic memory, Tadhg.
Oh, well, my first one in the flesh, I think, was I was working at a construction site in Livingston when I was 19. I went onto a construction site. I was over doing a play for the Edinburgh Fringe, and I looked like Bobby Sands at the time because I had long hair. In fact, I came onto the site and this Rangers fan said, "Oh, great, it's Bobby fucking Sands." Because I had an Ireland jersey on me. But anyway, that's another story. But
did you not have lunch?
What?
Did you not have lunch?
Oh.
So there was this guy from Falkirk brought me to my first, that was my first Celtic game, and I think we beat Dundee United 5-0 and Larson got a hat-trick. So I saw Larson in his pomp.
Nice.
So I was always a Celtic fan, but when I was in the ground for the first time, my head just went completely. Like, the first thing I saw when I came into the stadium was the tricolour, and sure, that was it. Love affair.
Lovely, right? So that covers first Celtic game. Your favourite Celtic goal?
Ooh. Thompson against Liverpool, I'd say.
Nice. Hector, what about you and Monty? Have you got a favourite Celtic goal, just off the top of your heads? Mine is always Joe Miller's in the cup final, the day after my dad's funeral.
Larson's dink over Kloss in the 6-2 game.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Larson, Boa Vista. Just for what it meant.
And that's been getting replayed this week, Monty. I don't know if you've seen all the tweets.
I've seen it, yeah, I did. It's probably why it's fresh in my mind too. I remember watching it in Stranmillis in Belfast with all my mates, and I literally fucking nearly jumped out of my skin. We couldn't watch the last 5 minutes. Just tears and snotters and wonderful. Lovely.
Okay, so Tadhg, your favourite Celtic player / manager. Could be the same person, let's be honest. Could be the same person.
I always thought Liam Brady was unlucky. I'm a big Liam Brady guy as manager. That's just an honourable mention. But my favourite manager was Martin O'Neill because, again, it was just a period where I was just kind of in love with him, and his passion on the sideline when he was in his pomp as a manager, I think, was infectious. As a player, I didn't see Jinky Johnson, obviously, but I saw Larson in the flesh, and yeah, just another level completely. And another guy who looked like he was happy, really happy to be playing for the club. I love that. Not just for the money or like the way the football has gone, where it's like every year you see this new good player in the UEFA Cup, whatever. Oh, Chelsea have signed him like automatically, that kind of. I'm sounding like an old man, guys, but I think soccer's it's gone to the dogs, and I use the word soccer because we have our own football in Ireland.
Indeed.
Let's not forget, this is a light-hearted comedian we have on as a special guest tonight.
We're all doomed, lads. We're all doomed.
There's a lot of black spot in the sun today.
And don't get me started on the war.
Right, okay. One for everyone. Let's play the stereotypes. Tadhg, your favourite Irish Celt, including Liam Scales scoring last week against Rangers. Who's your favourite Irish Celt?
Liam Miller.
Oh, good one. Very good.
Liam Miller, when I just wish I could have spoken to him at the time before he went to Man United. If he just had given another year or two, because he was scoring some goals from midfield. He was running the midfield for a brief period. I thought he was brilliant in his pomp. Yeah, so a Cork man as well. Honourable mention for Cork.
Yep.
I can share with you off the podcast record the story of Liam Miller's contract discussions.
Oh, wow.
It's genuine. The horse's mouth stuff. I'll tell you when we're done.
Okay, and then finally, and for now that you've achieved true celebrity status, do you still dream of doing the Paradise Windfall at Celtic Park one day?
Of course. And I have to say, I wasn't happy for that young one who was doing the Jota song the other day. There, I was like, she's a great voice, she's a great singer, but it should have been me.
That's very good.
By the way, neither of you have heard this man.
I can just see the tears rolling down the face onto the Rangers jersey. It should have been me.
Desi, have neither you, I'm not going to ask him to do it because that's his wrong, but have either two of you heard him sing?
Yeah, well, I think you'll find we were celebrating his singing earlier, and Tadhg is actually going to be doing the outro tonight, Monty. If you'd have turned up in time tonight,
hey, look, contract negotiations and referral.
Now that you're his 10% agent. Yes, right. So Tadhg. Well, we've got you here. I believe you're going to be doing a 5-nation tour this year. Can you get any details on that?
Yes, my friends. So I'm in Cotier, I think is the name of the venue in Glasgow. Cotiers. So it's all in September. Is it 20? You don't have it in front of you there, do you? I think it's the 21st.
I'll get the exact date. It's your September in Glasgow, but I believe you're doing Ireland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales.
Indeed, yeah. And I'm doing the Ulster Hall in Belfast with
Did you see he did that
with the Nordies?
Yeah. It's my first time in Ulster Hall, and it's going to be an emotional time for me. I just have to pick which Rangers jersey to wear. Like, I'm not sure which one to wear yet, you know.
And Tadhg, can you just confirm what the tour's actually called?
It's called the Marxist Terrorist Supporting Scumbag Tour.
Lovely.
I like to kind of take my trolls' words of wisdom and use them for promotional purposes. So yeah.
So Tadhg, can I ask you a question before you go?
Yeah.
What's the major difference between people from Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? Just before you go.
Well, I've never heard of Northern Ireland. It sounds brilliant.
Donegal would be the most northerly part.
Yeah.
I can think of that.
Yeah. I hear it's supposed to be great. I've never been. I've only been to Ireland, but there's a lot of southern hypocrisy. But I'd be happy to do another podcast on southern hypocrisy if you're interested.
We'll do it in the summer. When there's no football on, we'll do it in the summer.
Let's do a special and let's discuss the Better Together campaign and all the
Absolutely, man.
Because I know the two lads were very keen on that.
I'd love to, yeah. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to run.
Okay, mate, you carry on.
Absolute
Thanks very much, Tadhg.
Thanks.
That was
Pleasure, lads.
Lovely meeting you, fella.
Take care.
Bye. Right, okay, so while you two are still on, we've got, Tadhg had to go, so he can't play, but we do have a quick quiz in honour of Tadhg's famous song, Are You Sorry for What You Did? And we're going to play that at the end, and we're going to play a quick quiz, Hector and Monty, if you're available for 5 minutes, called Are You Sorry for What You Bid? Right? So this is basically players who we either shouldn't have signed or players that we should have signed and didn't, right? Okay, so Hector, do you want to go first or second?
I'll go second after Monty.
Okay, Monty, you're first on the door, alright, Monty, you ready? Okay. Number 1, so you'll get 2 each. First one for Monty. I am 47 years of age. I never scored a goal for any of my clubs or my country. I once sat next to Desi and David Walliams in the Regano in Glasgow City Centre. I only ever made the subs bench for my first big club. That club thought £130 was a decent wage for a goalkeeper, so I left to join Kenny Dalglish. Who am I? I went on to make 485 appearances in a glorious goalkeeping career. Who am I?
Fucking Bruce Grobbelaar.
Come on, it's a Celtic quiz.
Fucking haven't a clue.
Hector, who did Celtic offer £130 as a wage to and went on to have a glorious career under Kenny Dalglish and others?
Pat Bonner? Can't be Packy Bonner. No.
I thought that was quite easy. It's also putting in the Regano with Shea Given.
Oh, keepers. Right, okay.
Shea Given. Okay, so that's
signed by Dalglish. Sorry, Desi. How was Given signed by Dalglish?
Newcastle, wasn't it?
In Blackburn.
Blackburn, was it?
Blackburn. Celtic offered him £130 as a pro contract. Yeah. He was on £100 as an apprentice, and his dad told Celtic to fuck off.
Jesus Christ.
Right, okay, you ready, Hector?
Go for it.
Chance to score your first penalty. You ready? I am 6'1" and 37 years of age. I have scored 17 goals in 17 goals in 340 games in my career. I am a Celtic player with 100% games to victory record. I reportedly cost Celtic £1 million and I won a League Cup winners' medal despite never playing a league game. I played one game against Morton in the Scottish Cup. Despite my name, I am neither really, I could neither really go or be declared as marvellous. Who am I?
Fucking hell. £1 million.
It cost £1 million. He's only 37 and he played one game for us.
Against Morton.
Against Morton, and he got a league title. He got a league winners medal.
37.
His name he could neither really go, think of a phrase with go in it, and he can't be declared as marvellous. What name?
Comper.
Well done. Marvin Comper, well done. So we'll in off the post. We'll allow you a couple of hints if you need them, Monty, this to equalise.
That's
the last one.
That's a full techno remix.
16, there. I have scored
Can you do that again?
I am 28 years of age and 5'10". I have scored 16 times in 54 games from my country. My last transfer fee cost 3.1 million and I'm now valued at 28 million. Brendan Rodgers reportedly sat me down and explained how I would fit into the Celtic team. Peter Lawwell shat the bed and I joined the first Midlands team to win the FA Cup.
John McGinn. Can't miss that one.
Straight in the top corner. Didn't need a clue. Well done. One each. Okay, so the last one to Hector. Closing up. Here we go, Hector. I am 36 years of age and 6'2". I once went from one legendary European club to join another. In 239 games, I managed a decent 60 goals. I cost around £2 to £3 million and made 26 appearances in 4 seasons, and I did score a goal. I blame the tactics, the medical staff and everyone else bar myself for being shite. I'm more famous for diving than football. There's a YouTube song comparing my manhood to a boa constrictor. Who am I?
Is it Dirk Borector?
Dirk Diggle and Borector. Oh yeah.
You mind it there, very nice. So Hector wins 2-1. Well done. That was the inaugural Are You Sorry for What You Bid quiz. So thanks for playing, guys.
That Shea Given story is fucking tragic. Jesus.
Okay, I actually thought Macari had said, I thought the legend was Macari said he was too small.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But then I looked up today because I was going to, and thanks to the Celtic Wiki, the marvellous Celtic Wiki, for some of that information today on those players. But when you look up Shea Given, there's actually the newspaper report. I think it was like doing I think it was Open Goal he was on, and they asked him about how did they not make it at Celtic, and he explains £100 and they got offered 130, and they thought it was a negotiation gambit Celtic were playing, and Celtic said no thanks, and Celtic went bye and just let him walk out the door. Unbelievable. So there we go. So that was us. So thanks very much everyone for bearing with us. It was great to have Tadhg Hickey on tonight. Hopefully we'll all be celebrating come Sunday, mid-afternoon Sunday after the game. Hopefully our predictions will be fine, even if we do go to extra time like Monty fears. But that'll do fine. Other than that, just thanks very much. Thanks to Hector for joining us tonight. Thank you, Hector.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you to Monty for joining from across the water.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
Okay, folks. Thanks very much for listening. My name's Desi. Good night.
Are you sorry for what you did? If you are, you keep it hid. Well, it's nice to say you're sorry when you make balls of it. I say it to every Brit. Are you sorry for what you did? Be like me and say you're sorry so, 'cause you've made a balls of it. Sorry forgot to feed your rabbit, no lettuce for little Marv. Are you sorry for the famine and leaving us to starve? Sorry for being stroppy, I get desperate monthly cramps. Are you sorry for teaching Hitler about the concentration camps? Are you sorry for what you did. If you are, you keep it hid, so well hid. I'm sorry for saying you've a fat arse, I gets nasty after wine. Are you sorry what you did in India, or betraying Palestine? I sometimes rush in like a fool, I'll hold my hands up there, but I have nothing on the hastiness of Iraq and Tony Blair. I'm sorry ye don't understand barter. We gave you our lives, our land, and you gave us Nathan Carter. I'm sorry we're much loved and no one likes ye, but then ye did invade half the world and yet complain about immigrancy. Are you sorry for what ye did? If ye are, you keep it hid. Well, it's nice to say you're sorry when you make a balls of it. I say it to every Brit. Are you sorry for what ye did? Be like me and say you're sorry so, 'cause you made a balls of it. Are you sorry for what ye did? If ye are, you keep it hid, so well hid.
And the 12 points, they go to Ireland. Ireland, 12 points from United Kingdom.
Again to Tadhg Hickey for joining us tonight. You can catch all of Tadhg's tour details and various other videos and output on tadhghickey.com, and you can get details on his tour coming in September and October, and also look out for special news regards a Tadhg Hickey book in the offering. Thanks for listening. Good night.